Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with the chair.
I'm Joe Etling, Chair of the Vigo County Democratic Central Committee, and welcome to the award-winning Chat with the Chair. Hope everyone is doing well today, staying cool in these hot days of August as we're going through what are called the dog days of August. Election is rolling around the corner here. People are out campaigning. We got some awesome candidates, and we have got a tremendous show tonight. A returning guest and one of the most popular people that we've ever had on the chat. I'd say that when she's been here, the ratings have been through the roof. She needs no introduction, but remind our viewing world who you are.
Sarah Mulligan, Circuit Court. I'm glad to be here, Mr. Etling.
We are so honored that you could be here, and you probably know, as you are a regular viewer of the chat, that we have been talking about you in recent episodes. We, of course, your goat milking skills are legendary in Vigo County.
And get this out of the way.
Get this out of the way. So we have to inform you, though, as a past champion of the goat milking, and who knew that she had these kind of skills, that we have a challenge that has now been thrown down from our future council person, and she feels very confident about next year at the fair of challenging the Honorable Judge Mullican to a goat milking contest. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, first, I want to correct the record that I was not the champion. I was second. Mr. John Marvel beat me a few years ago, and then the next year I was second as well. Out of 4 or 5 people.
Well, wait a minute, hold on a minute. Now, we have to go back because I think there was a technicality that Sheriff Marveltime was disqualified. So you were, in fact, the champion, so we don't stand corrected. We have, on the chat, we've done our research, and you were phenomenal in the goat milking. So with regard to the contest, what do you have to say?
Well, actually, I did it the second time because one of our probation officers was involved in 4-H, and I was glad to be there. And Danny Winklepluck was actually in my group.
I see.
So I looked it up on YouTube to see how to milk a goat.
There you go. She's being very modest about her skills, so I guess we'll stay tuned to next fair. So
I guess the real question is, are you going to participate?
Well, if that's a challenge, I'm taking as one, then I will be more than happy to take on all challengers.
All challengers.
All challengers, absolutely. And there'll be no Googling how to milk goats from the chat.
Now, how will you learn?
Well, I mean, some things just come naturally, Judge. So, you know.
I would not have seen you as
you wouldn't say that?
Or a
well, I mean,
goat milker.
Sometimes that's surprising. So, of course, you are coming up on a big election, and talk about how quickly these last 6 years have gone by.
They have gone by. It seems hard to believe that it's been 6 years. So I'm ending my term, my first term, and it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. So I'm glad to be on the ballot in November as well.
Of course, you had made the transition from a lawyer to prosecuting to a judge before you ascended to the circuit court bench. How has that transition been, though, being in the courthouse as a judge, particularly in a court that you were practicing in, try cases as a prosecutor? How's that been transitioning to the bench?
Well, I mean, circuit court's a big job, as you know. It has general jurisdiction, probate, child and needy services cases, a big criminal docket, as well as civil litigation. So there's a lot to it. And I think, I've tried to be present and be there every day and serve the people as best as I can and create new programs.
Of course, historic in the sense that you're the first female elected circuit court judge in Vigo County, and I know that particularly you and your husband have done a tremendous job with your daughters, who 2 lawyers and another one in law school.
On our way.
So
we've obviously failed as parents.
So you've definitely set a great example. How has that been for you? I mean, you obviously, as a mother, role model, but also as a lawyer and judge, a role model for your daughters and other females who are pursuing a law degree and practicing law.
Well, all 3 of the girls have chosen something different. Katie was with the CDC, and then was in a judicial clerkship, and now is with Legislative Services Agency. And then Annie has chosen civil litigation in Chicago. And I don't know what Maggie will choose. But they've all done something very different. And I'd say probably all of us, I'm a judge currently, but Mark is a mediator, civil litigation, public defender. Everybody's done something different. Really what I've tried to emphasize is to do something that they really love. They need to get up and go to a job that they really like every day. And I think that's what I try to aspire to, and I certainly like my job that way.
So just curious, with regard to your daughters, is there one more surprising to you, another that's pursued law as a career?
I think probably Maggie. She always talked about wanting to be a teacher, but she's starting. In fact, her first class in law school is tomorrow.
Awesome.
So we'll see. I mean, I guess that would be the surprise. The other two didn't surprise me so much, and we certainly haven't pushed it. We've not pushed it one way or another. Just I guess tried to show them that the practice of law either in Vigo County or all over is very different for everybody, and you can make it really what you want.
So now with regard to your first term as judge, I think that you clearly have a reputation among the bar and previously as a prosecutor, and then of course as a judge you wear a robe, but underneath your robe you're always so impeccably dressed. I mean, is that correct? I mean, you look like you walked off of a cover of a magazine.
I don't know about that.
So the question though is, in your next term, will you emulate the judge that you followed? Yes. Yeah, so I'm wondering if we're going to see a little more color in your wardrobe.
Well, I don't think I could follow in his steps. He's got quite the reputation.
He does. So I just wondered if that was something that was going to evolve now in your judicial career. What do you think?
Not something I've given a lot of thought to. I think Judge Bulk will have to be have that reputation as the best dressed.
Well, we're here in the chat. We're going to recommend, and our team here, we're recommending you give that some thought.
Okay.
We think some plaids and seersucker.
Just like.
Well, I mean, there's a chance. I mean, Judge Bulk has been on, and he's challenged definitely the standard here. So we are with our blazer here emulating. So I just didn't know if that's
I'll certainly consider it.
Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate at least the consideration.
Yes.
So moving into your second term, what would be some of the challenges that you do face in addition to your wardrobe?
Well, I mean, I think, one of the things that, during the time when I've been in circuit court, we've made some of the biggest changes to Vigo County, to the local justice system, starting with, putting Bill Watson as head of court services and putting all adult probation, juvenile probation, pretrial services, and community corrections under one umbrella to really improve efficiency and communication.
And talk to our viewers a little bit about how significant a change that was, particularly once again with regard to your role from prosecutor's office, then to a judge in city court, and then to the circuit court judge, how those types of changes have impacted the courts in particular.
Well, I mean, starting back in city court, and when I was a city court judge, I was one of the first city courts to go to Odyssey with Chuck Hanley and Michelle Edwards. That was a big change, and Justice Sullivan at the time was in charge of court technology. So, and then I knew Vigo County, the Superior Courts would go to Odyssey, and we did, and all counties are now on Odyssey. But that means we're all sharing the same electronic system, and everybody can look at that, and it's open to the public, so it increases transparency, efficiency for the courts, and all electronic files, which is huge, really. I mean, before I'd have 50 files on my desk and flipping through them. Now I just go to my computer and I can pull it up and look at every document that way. So everybody shares that electronic system.
And so then Mr. Watson spearheading those efforts, how has that been throughout the time that it's taken place with those combination of services?
Well, I mean, I think it just has one person. Bill's in charge of all court services, so that's pretrial services, adult and juvenile probation, and community corrections. And so it's one policy for all agencies. And they now share Odyssey, but also SRS, which is the systematic release system. That's another case management plan, and they all use that. So they're all looking at the same documents, creating case plan, and everybody can see it. So that it just improves efficiency and policies and so forth.
So in addition, what other things have occurred during your first term that you'd like to speak about?
Well, the other thing is Criminal Rule 26, which was also the creation of pretrial services, and which had to be in effect in January of 2020. And that we started back in 2018 with a group of all the stakeholders in Vigo County, slowly mapping our criminal justice system, looking at it little by little, and put together pretrial services, and Bill's in charge of pretrial services. And we have pretrial screeners who go to the jail every day and ask 7 questions of each defendant. And it creates a report that goes to all the courts and helps us make a decision about whether or not they should be released, or whether additional information is needed, or so forth.
And Vigo County was really ahead of its time and leading the state really in taking that on. And I know you were chief judge during that time, so let's talk about how important that was for Vigo County to be out front on something like that.
Well, I mean, we recently had our pretrial services certified, so we're probably one of 6 or 7 counties in the state of Indiana that has a certified pretrial program. But again, all courts, all counties are using Criminal Rule 26, so we're all using the same assessment tool, which is the IRAS method, asking 7 or 8 questions to determine the risk that a defendant may or may not appear, or a risk to the community. And we're all using the same information.
So what other developments have occurred during your first term?
One of the other things is the increase in the CHINS cases. As a circuit court judge, I oversee the juvenile magistrate and the juvenile, participate in the juvenile detention facility. And so, probably in the last 10 years, statewide, certainly in Vigo County, the CHINS cases have just exploded, increased, and particularly in Vigo County. And, in a good way, the delinquencies have gone down, but the CHINS cases have gone up. And for those who don't know, CHINS is a child in need of services, meaning the Department of Family and Children has intervened in someone's life, either removed the children or is involved asking parents to perform services or receive services and make some changes.
And those numbers have dramatically increased,
Dramatically.
And that's, do we know from your research or information why that would be the case?
I think there's a lot of various answers. I think it's probably some of the policies of the Department of Family and Children, their decisions to intervene and remove, which creates a petition. Other things are the proliferation of methamphetamine, opioid crisis, domestic violence. There's just not one specific answer, I think. It's a variety of things.
And how has those numbers impacted the courts at large?
Well, the real impact is on the juvenile court. I mean, they're in court all the time, hearing CHINS cases and delinquencies and so forth. And, the practical effect is it doesn't leave a lot of time for other things. So as a result of that, Judge Bulk started hearing some of those CHINS cases, and I continued that as well on Thursday afternoon doing the CHINS cases. And now the Supreme Court asked me to start a family recovery court, which is a problem-solving court specifically designed to look at CHINS cases and intervene and kind of stop that pattern of intervention by the Department of Family and Children, break the cycle.
And talk about what the plan with that court is.
Well, it was certified in 2019 or preliminarily, and then certified in 2020, which was the middle of the pandemic. But it's a problem-solving court. It's different because it's civil, and most of the other problem-solving courts really are involved when it's a criminal case. So this is when a CHINS case has been filed. They're diverted into family recovery court, and it's different because it's different than the traditional court. As you're aware, everyone has their role, but this is sort of a team atmosphere, a collaborative effort. Everybody in an effort, we're sort of involved and invested in their success, the success of parents to overcome either addiction and mental health, or whether it's domestic violence or neglect, whatever it is that's involved in their case, and help them move on and either obtain sobriety, gain their GED, whichever, and after a 12 or 18-month program.
As you indicate, the problem-solving courts have historically in the county been directed towards criminal cases, and they've gotten a fair amount of publicity, but perhaps not as much for the amount of time and resources that the courts and the judges and their staffs and those agencies associated with it are putting into that. A lot of that may have to do with the sensitive nature of the topic, and I would imagine in particular with the topics that you're dealing with CHINS, those are dealing very sensitive issues.
And all confidential. I mean, the Family Recovery Court is probably the only court besides juvenile drug court that's confidential. Right. All the other courts are open to the public. So, people who want to come and visit are certainly permitted to, but they have to have permission and have to sign a waiver, because everything they hear is so sensitive. It's involving children and psychiatric. It's all very sensitive material, so it's confidential.
And having said that, when you're holding those sessions, there's obviously a large number of people that are in the courthouse associated with that, which would reflect just the sheer number of cases that you're handling. Obviously, another job you've taken on, and many that you have. How has that gone for you, and what do you see the future of that to be?
Well, I mean, I think, on Thursday afternoons, it's a huge crowd and on the third floor making a lot of noise. But, I try to do it efficiently and hear every case individually and, make the best decision. It's certainly a challenge to hear, 25 cases. And, some hearings are 5 minutes, some are an hour, and really give everybody their best, the attention they deserve.
And you've, of course, inherited a fine staff and added to that, so I assume that they've been a huge asset to you in doing that. Particularly, once again, that's additional responsibilities over and above what you're doing, both on a criminal docket and a civil docket, and the probate docket that you have as a circuit court judge.
Right.
So, with regard to the numbers then that you as the circuit court judge are dealing with, as well as the other superior court judges, is there some plan in the works that you're able to speak about expanding what we have as a court system in Vigo County currently? I
mean, we've recently visited the Vigo County Council and asked them to give us a resolution supporting our request to this legislature to add another court, which would be the 7th court, and make that the juvenile court, and then keep the juvenile magistrate to back up that 7th court or perhaps the jail. So the plan is to ask for an additional court. But that's a legislative decision. So it's a very long process, and going to the local stakeholders, asking the county council, as well as the bar association and other people if they would support it, is just the beginning. And it'll require us to appear in front of the legislature and ask, committees, subcommittees, and then ultimately the legislature has to approve it.
And what's the reception to that been thus far?
So far, it's supportive. I mean, I think Vigo County, in terms of the weighted caseload, is probably in the top 3 in terms of the state of our weighted caseload, meaning we in the top 3 counties of the highest caseload.
And thus far, with regard,
have been for a while.
Yeah, and so with the other superior court judges and the bar association, I would assume they're unanimously in favor of this.
They are all in favor of it. And really, again, most of it has been directed at sort of alleviating some of the issues that juvenile court has. They're so busy; they're in court all the time. The day I was at the county council, juvenile court didn't finish till 6:30, and so that, as I said, the practical effect is that they're not able to do other things if they're in court all day. So we're hoping to push forward and ask for and receive another court.
So you visited with us before, and of course, as we talked about, you made the transition from being an advocate in the courtroom to being on the bench, and when you pursued circuit court judge, obviously you were aspiring to take the bench there and were successful. Has that been everything that you thought it would be?
I think so. In fact, I think I enjoy it the most, just because there's such a variety of things to do. It's not just criminal cases. As a prosecutor, that's really all you handle are criminal cases. This has probate, lots of sort of complicated civil cases, as well as child and needy services, and a pretty big criminal docket. So it's a wide variety of things.
So another program that's been developed under your leadership and with some assistance from a lot of great people is a dual diagnosis program through Vigo County Community Corrections. Can you speak about that program? I
mean, one of the things that all of the judges have seen is that the jail has had a lot of people who are there who suffer from a substance abuse disorder as well as mental health. And of course, the jail is not the therapeutic setting they need. And so, in cooperation with community corrections, the courts were struggling to find a place to help move people from the jail, stabilize them, move them from the jail to a place where they could receive mental health and substance abuse treatment. And so it was the creation of the dual diagnosis program through work release. It's the only one in the state of Indiana that I'm aware of with treatment for both disorders. And that's the population that is likely to has a high rate of recidivism. And
that's a one-of-a-kind program, as you indicated. So that's transitioning people from the jail into the work release center, and now they're getting substance abuse treatment as well as mental health treatment.
Through a psychiatric evaluation with recommendations for medication and therapy and substance abuse treatment.
And it's a very intensive program with the thought processes that we're getting people treated for both of these issues, and then the hope is to transition them out of a confined setting.
Right, with the assistance of the case managers through community corrections, and then have an aftercare plan after they leave community corrections. And the other thing is, Mr. Watson and myself were at the Building and Trades meeting probably 6 or 8 months ago, and we were able to tell all of the union leaders about our program, and some of them have reached out to community corrections in an effort to get those people who have gone through the 6-month program to employ them. And I know that Mr. Watson's been successful in that regard.
Yeah, that's been very good. And of course, as you say, this is one of its kind in the state. How have you seen that program progress, and are you happy with where it is right now?
Yeah, I mean, we have a wait list of people who are waiting to get into it, and they can only take so many people at a time. So there are people in the jail who have been approved for it, and they're waiting to go. So it's gotten a lot of attention. And I'm anxious to see, I know Mr. Watson's putting some numbers together for the county council as well as the judges to see, the rate of recidivism, how many people have graduated, and to see if we need to, what changes, if any, that need to be made.
And that'd be a great opportunity for Vigo County to be the role model for other counties throughout the state to adopt a similar program.
I know that Grant County, which is sort of a leader in its own, has come to view our dual diagnosis to see what we're doing. And I think there are no limits in terms of the way it could be for those people who haven't had any treatment to receive it in a secure environment and then go on and graduate, receive employment, education, so forth.
And once again, those are programs that don't necessarily always get the same amount of attention because you're dealing with topics that are confidential, privileged, etc. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes and a lot of extra work from, again, the courts, the judges and their staffs to facilitate these, which is all geared towards trying to help people.
Yeah, and the other thing is, the council has been particularly helpful to us. When I was chief judge, we asked for and received a social worker who works for the courts, and our social workers at the jail every day, all day, seeing various people certainly acting as liaison between mental health, dual diagnosis, and various other agencies to, transition people, either help them get medication, help them be released from jail, or, communicate with family members. It's just been a real big thing for us to have a social worker.
And without revealing any confidences, you have seen success graduates in the program.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're very thankful. And again, the council was very generous in investing in that because, as I said, it's a one-of-a-kind program, so we could be the leader in the state of Indiana.
And just so we're clear, the Vigo County Council.
Yes, the Vigo County Council.
County Council. We want to give a shout out to the Vigo County Council, so we appreciate their involvement and their willingness to assist people that are in these situations right now. And of course, you have had the opportunity to be through the campaign process. I know how much you enjoy that. Clearly, all the publicity you got down in the goat milking at the fair demonstrates that. But of course, many candidates have been impacted by COVID. It still to some extent impacts, but how has it been out on the campaign trail interacting, because that obviously is a once in every 6-year opportunity for you.
True. So people are really out and about. I think it's hard to believe that the pandemic's been 2 years from the beginning to now. For a long time people weren't out or doing much at all. Now I feel like people are really out and about doing a lot of things.
And I assume that again has been a gratifying opportunity to be at various events and interacting with voters and talking about issues that are important to them. Looking forward to your next term, are there any things that you have on the agenda that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, I think the primary focus right now is probably the juvenile court and trying to alleviate that. And January 1st, I think I'll be taking the permanency and the periodic review hearings back because we've used Senior Judge Bruneau to help us alleviate the caseload by hearing those permanency and periodic reviews. And then she is retiring at the end of December. So that'll leave some time. I'll be doing that. Other than that, I'm on a statewide legislative committee which is looking at the Juvenile Justice Code. And I'm on the subcommittee which is trying to figure out the best way to collect juvenile justice data.
Yeah, so that's another role that you have, and I know that you've had the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice reach out to you to be involved, and you've been very forthcoming with your time in doing that. Once again, even though you've got so many irons in the fire, but how do you perceive your role in that regard?
Well, I think we spent our committee in 18 and through 2020. We mapped the criminal justice system with all of our stakeholders, and we used an IRAS system, which is the assessment method. And I think, because of our efforts in that, they wanted someone who was kind of familiar with that process to be on a legislative committee. And again, it's looking at the best way to collect juvenile data throughout the state and trying to figure out. We use SRS, which is systemic release system. All of our juvenile adult probation and community corrections use that system, and many counties in the state of Indiana use that as well. So it may just be a push to use that system all through the 92 counties.
Of course, for
to
those
have a consistent data.
and those that may not be aware, though, that the judges in superior courts throughout the state have 6-year terms.
That's true.
Of course, federal judges are lifetime appointments, but that's different. So, of course, as youthful as you are, if we had a crystal ball here, what's the future look like for Judge Mullican?
Well, I'll certainly start in January, hopefully my next term, and see where that goes.
Very good.
Yeah.
So, beyond that, any other interesting tidbits that you'd like to share with our viewers about your first 6 years as a circuit court judge? Any interesting stories that you could share with us?
Probably nothing that I could repeat.
Nothing that she can repeat. Well,
how about you?
Well, I'm asking the questions here.
Well, you never know.
I need a gavel here. I'd gavel her down if I had one. But again, we are delighted that you joined us. As a repeat guest, it's oftentimes we can't get people to come back. But you're such a delight to talk to. So we appreciate you sharing it, and it's awesome to see that your family and your daughters are doing so well. It's got to be so exciting for you, and I know that. I think our respective youngest daughters, maybe we were both surprised that are pursuing that, but it's
That's
awesome.
True.
So I think that Maggie's going to do an awesome job to follow her sisters and her mother.
She's got that little connection to Green Bay.
There you go.
Saying congratulations to Danny.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we wish her good luck as she starts off in law school tomorrow. That's awesome. So that's going to be a great experience for her.
And your Gretchen Ann as well.
Yes,
she's already started.
She's already started. So she's got it underway, and so I think that it's going to be a great opportunity for them. And so we, of course, as we're getting for the election, we have a state ticket that's an all-female ticket, so we're excited about that. And I know that you've been involved in a number of civic organizations and spoke at a variety of organizations, particularly when you were in prosecutor's office. And I think in doing all those things, you've been a good example for young people and young females about pursuing a professional career or pursuing a career in the law. So that's something I know that you're going to continue to do, and we appreciate that. We
need more women running for office.
Yeah, for public service, there's no question about it. And if we can get them, and we're going to continue to press for that here, and obviously we have excellent office holders such as yourself. It sure makes it a lot easier to promote to people that that's the way we should go. So any final thoughts for our viewers?
Well, no, I just appreciate being here. I always enjoy speaking with you, Mr. Atling.
We hope it doesn't have to be 6 more years that we get you back, but
I'm waiting for to see you muck a goat.
Well, that's true.
I don't know about the rest of you.
We're going to calendar that down. Judge, I'm going to give you the final word here to our viewers.
Well, thank you for letting me come.
All right. And we encourage everybody in November to be registered to vote.
That's right, registered
and
to vote.
It's so important that they vote.
Need to vote. Everyone register to vote and vote.
Yeah. So that's great parting advice. Make sure if you haven't registered to vote, you get registered. And of course, so many opportunities in these weeks coming up to vote early, as well as vote on election day. So we encourage everybody to vote. And until our next chat, I'm Joe Etling. This has been a great chat with the chair. Everybody have a great evening, and God bless you.
OCRATIC. Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and watch.